Okay, let's dive into this. We have absolutely all been there. You set a goal, you feel incredibly motivated, and you promise yourself, this time it's gonna be different. But then, fast forward a few weeks, or honestly even just a few days, and boom, you find yourself right back where you started, feeling completely burned out. It's a totally universal struggle. We battle with self-discipline, we fall short, and our immediate response is just a heavy dose of self-criticism. We think if we just had a little more willpower, everything would magically fall into place. Well, in this explainer, we are going to completely change how you view that struggle.
Because it's incredibly frustrating, isn't it? When our habits fall apart, society is just so quick to point the finger at our personal character. The overarching message we constantly hear is simply to try harder. If you couldn't stick to your diet, or you skipped the gym, or you procrastinated on a big project, the assumption is just that you didn't want it enough. It gets falsely labeled as a character flaw, a moral failing, or some lack of inner strength. But the source material we're digging into today reveals exactly why this whole trying harder approach almost always leads straight to a dead end.
Section 1. The Willpower Myth.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what we need to unlearn. We are going to completely dismantle this toxic, pervasive idea that willpower is just this endless magical resource that you can summon out of thin air if you just grit your teeth and push yourself. It's a belief that honestly, like 99% of people hold, and it just shackles us to a false reality of endless effort with barely any success. We need to make a massive shift in how we view ourselves. The old guilt-inducing way of thinking treats willpower as a fixed character trait, meaning if you fail, well, you are a failure. But the scientifically backed reality is completely different. Willpower is actually a biological muscle. It is entirely tied to your physical existence and your overall quality of life.
To really hammer this home, listen to this powerful quote from the source material by Ben Angel. People recommend willpower like it's a pill, but they don't understand low energy is influencing their behavior and mood. I mean, he hit the nail on the head, right? This simplistic way of thinking isn't just limiting, it is actively damaging to us. The try-harder mentality completely ignores the biological truth of human energy levels. You literally cannot separate your mental fortitude from your physical state.
Section 2. The Biological Reality.
So if willpower isn't just a switch in your brain that you can flip on and off, how does it actually function in the human body throughout a normal day? Well, the facts laid out here completely change the game. First, willpower is fundamentally tied to your physical energy. Because it acts exactly like a muscle, it gets physically tired when it's overused. Mental fatigue directly results in low willpower and, you guessed it, poor decisions. Just like you wouldn't expect your legs to run a marathon every single day without failing, you can't expect your willpower to function perfectly when it is exhausted. Furthermore, it decreases with poor health and, remarkably, repeated exposure to temptation physically decreases your resistance to it. Every single time you have to say no to something, you are essentially lifting a heavy mental weight. And eventually, that muscle is going to reach failure.
So the crucial point comes down to a really simple equation. Low energy equals low willpower. This is the big paradigm shift right here. Your mental fortitude is biologically tethered to your physical state. When you are running on fumes, your 800-pound gorilla of an unconscious mind takes over, and it prioritizes immediate comfort and survival way over your long-term goals.
Section 3. The HALTS Rule. Okay, now that we understand the biology, how do we actually protect ourselves? Well, this is where an incredibly practical framework comes into play. HALTS. It's a very simple acronym, and it's used to identify specific states of biological and emotional vulnerability. The rule is simply this. When you recognize you are in one of these states, you must avoid facing temptation or making any major decisions. Consider this the ultimate safety net for your daily choices. It prevents you from crashing hard into reality when your natural defenses are down.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how each of these 5 specific conditions actively drains your willpower tank. Let's break it down. H stands for hungry. Without fuel, your brain quite literally lacks the energy it needs to exert self-control. A is for angry. A sudden rush of anger floods your system with adrenaline and totally hijacks your rational mind. L is for lonely. Humans have a deep biological need for connection, so isolation actually drains our resilience. T is for tired. Without sufficient sleep, your mental clarity and emotional balance are completely undermined. And finally, S for sick. When your body is busy fighting off an illness, it reroutes all available energy away from your willpower muscle to focus entirely on healing.
So when you recognize that you are hungry, angry, lonely, tired, or sick, the absolute best immediate action you can take is inaction. You pause. Do not decide. This is where you just have to stop fighting against the current. Trying to push through these depleted states with brute mental force is a recipe for complete failure. You really have to wait until your biological battery recharges before you tackle that complex problem or try to walk past that temptation.
Section 4. Setting up for success.
Let's move to and see how this builds into our daily routines. We now know that our willpower is limited and heavily influenced by our physical state. So, to proactively build a lifestyle that doesn't just rely on brute mental force, you've got to start with the basics of physical health. Step 1. Eat a balanced diet to keep your energy level steady. Step 2. Get sufficient sleep, because sleep is absolutely essential for your mental clarity and emotional balance. And Step 3. Continuously check your HALTS state before making any significant choices. You're essentially setting a strong foundation so that you don't have to rely on sheer willpower just to get through the day.
Instead of burning up your willpower to resist temptation in the heat of the moment, you want to use it in advance to shape your environment. The source material gives us these brilliant, really specific examples. If you want to cut back on sweets, don't rely on willpower when you're suddenly hungry at night. Remove all the junk food from your living area entirely. Seriously, do not even push your shopping cart down the cookie aisle. If you want to work out, pack your gym bag the night before so there are absolutely no barriers in the morning. If you need to focus, remove work distractions and turn off your phone before you even sit down at your desk. You are using a tiny bit of willpower right now to prevent a massive willpower depletion later on.
So, I want to leave you with this thought. The next time you are right on the edge of giving in, whether it's skipping a workout, snapping at a coworker, or just abandoning a project, stop and ask yourself, is it really a lack of discipline, or are you just running on empty? Remember the HALTS rule. Treat yourself with a little self-compassion, check your physical and emotional battery, and realize that sometimes the absolute most disciplined thing you can do is simply rest, recharge, and try again when your tank is full.